But, it's important to me, and God hears our prayers. And the fact that I went 180 to ignore all of that, that was already, Tivamila, what are you doing? Are you really listening, or you're just desperate for this love, this relationship? Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to One More Day.
Yes, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're excited to bring you another episode, and it's going to be really interesting because we haven't been here for a little bit, and we know we say that a lot.
But... I know. I hope you guys had a great summer break. Yes. If you haven't taken one, I guess you should think about your Christmas break very soon.
Oh man, that's pretty early. Thanksgiving hasn't even hit us yet.
Oh, Thanksgiving break. Just take a break. It's so needed.
It is much needed to take a break. I really myself feel like I need a break. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I needed a break yesterday.
Oh man. But how have you been? What's up? What can we update everybody with, and what can we talk about?
I mean, I would say our summer break, I would think we didn't have one. We were just adjusting to our new area, new community. We had a few projects happening. We had a few summer camps going. So we took a break from the podcast, but we're back and we want to share more topics with all of you guys. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How are you?
I'm good. I'd like to hear more about what you mean by some of these summer breaks and projects. Like,
okay, yeah, of course. So around our area, a school invited me to teach a drama camp to elementary school students, and that was fun.
How's that going for you? Like, what do you have experience teaching?
Of course. Oh, did I just say that? Of course. No, I've been teaching university students for about 10 years. Mm-hmm. And mainly the subject is business English, drama, communications. So after resigning, I thought I would be taking a break from teaching. Mm-hmm. But long and behold, I was taking a walk. A school just approached me and they asked if I was interested to take a drama camp project with them, but for younger kids. So obviously it's a different planning process,
right?
But I had so much fun seeing how much kids can implement knowledge so quickly, and grow fast in the process. It was just only for 1 month, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, that's interesting. There was an interesting story that came with it. I don't know if you want to share as far as the process of you being in this new teaching position, like the actual ease of it and kind of the unique scenario that came with it.
I mean, which part of the story? I guess if you're asking about how I got the job.
Right, exactly.
As I said, I was doing errands, and on my way back, a young man talks to me and says, "Hey, are you looking for a teaching job?" I was like, "Not really." And he invited me to the school, to the office. When I walked in, they just asked me about what I do here. And I said, we just moved around this area. And they said they're looking for an English drama teacher. I hesitated first. I was like, do I want to teach for the summer? But after talking with the manager, she invited me for coffee. We realized we have similar values. We're both Christian, and she's been praying for someone to come teach drama. And I couldn't resist. I couldn't say no. And I started right away. And I would say God planned it or ordained this opportunity, because you can never say never. You cannot say, okay, I'm done with teaching, no more. Right. If it's in you, if it's a skill that you have, any opportunity can come again.
Yeah.
And I would say teaching, it's not just in the academia world. It's just a skill that you can implement whenever an opportunity comes. So I'm glad I did it. Yeah,
that's great. And there was I don't know, you said 3 other schools who were interested in you in the same area?
Yes. Can you believe it? After I left that school, I realized, there's schools everywhere here. And I started getting the idea of maybe I should teach for this summer. Maybe I should do summer camp. So I walked into 2 other schools and they wanted to hire me on the spot. But which I'm glad. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But I had to step back and say, okay, Tivamila, balance.
Yeah.
This summer you do want a little break. You want to spend time with your family.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to go with the initial school.
Mm-hmm.
And the other schools, of course, they're still contacting me even today.
Wow. And that's a precedent, I think, to your reputation and how what type of impression you made on the people, and also your resume speaking for itself, but also the type of person you are. I think that is definitely what it is. And obviously there's just the joy of the Lord from shining off
strength.
of you. No, but I think it shines off of you, and people receive that and they understand that. And so it's something that I admire. And I think that's like, wow, you just walk in and the entire, if you can say, region just wanted your services. They weren't really too skeptical. They knew that you were good for the job. So you should be proud of yourself.
I am. I'm very proud. And it just gives me more confidence than before that. Like you said, the joy that springs out of me when I connect with kids, but even with the staff. And it makes me think wherever I can go in the world with the qualifications I have, I could go back into education if I wanted to.
And I believe because you have such experience, you can probably bring forth a new kind of perspective, because you're probably not undoing things that you didn't like in your previous kind of experience, but you're just like, I know better now, and I can implement things now that have a better angle, or what's the word I'm looking for? Strategy is the word I'm looking for.
I would say strategy. And also having to teach younger kids coming back from before I was teaching college students, it's nice to have that diversity, you know, and diversify my knowledge and ability to teach all ages, you know. So there's definitely favor in that area, and I'm glad I did spend the summer doing that.
Do you feel like being a new mom has informed how you're dealing with younger kids, even though we don't have a toddler? She's only what? I think yesterday she turned 10 months. Yeah. So
I would say I missed her. Obviously, I noticed the little kids love going for a hug.
So the affection.
Every day, the affection. And I would just imagine I'm hugging Lilac, even if it was only for a few hours. It was a change for me. But, you know, Lilac was with Daddy, and you guys were hanging out and had a great time. But as a new mom, it was just good to even be reminded how I can teach little kids, little babies. So I started using what I've been preparing on Lilac. Phonics. By the way, I didn't like phonics. You know, if you asked me to teach phonics, my eye would twitch. You know, because I find it boring. You know, just the drills over and over. But actually, there's creative ways to teach, and now there's so many songs teaching on phonics.
All I remember is "Hooked on Phonics" works for me. I only remember that whole thing, and I would use it as a joke in many different things, especially when people would say kind of, you know, not so smart things like hooked on fun. Like, I mean, that's a running joke for a lot of people. But and you just celebrated a birthday.
Oh yes. Happy birthday to me.
Once again, we cannot clear Stevie Wonder's happy birthday.
I said to me.
Okay,
to me.
Same melody, so we don't want to.
Is it?
We don't want a blurred line situation.
Stevie, is it the same? Okay.
No, but
yes,
it
was
the
my
birthday,
birthday.
And so happy belated via the podcast, because we did celebrate on our own, but we didn't have a podcast birthday episode, which hopefully we will.
We did like
in the future.
Last year, but we never. I don't think it wasn't for the podcast. It was just for our own thing.
Hopefully, as we grow, anything that's on the cutting room floor, we can have on a Patreon or a members only page where it's relevant for those who are interested.
It was a great birthday. You know, all I wanted was just a time of me, you know, and, you know, SJ was able to be with the baby. I got to relax and get my own massages, you know, and you whipped up a nice cake for me.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, it was interesting.
It's a great recipe. Maybe we'll share it someday.
Yeah, basically the recipe had to do with instead of a conventional chocolate cake or fudgy cake, I did it out of brown beans. and
So
chocolate
good.
powder and things of that nature. So
Brown
hopefully,
beans or mung beans?
oh, sorry, it was our mung beans,
Mung.
MUNG beans. So those are, healthy beans. Right now, we're on a mainly keto diet, so a lot of the beans aren't a part of it. But it was what we had in the moment, so I just made do with that.
No, yeah, we're trying to stay with keto. Sometimes it could be tempting to just become keat without the dough.
Yeah,
Especially during the summer camp, people will be offering snacks.
I know,
cakes.
and Taiwan is not void of sweets.
No,
They are just
every
they have an
corner.
abundance of a bakery, a sweet everything in Taiwan. But I think as long as we hold each other accountable for all those things, and hopefully soon, and very soon, we can discuss kind of like how we go about that. The diet
that'll be good. Like and I'm excited to get back to my fitness routine again.
Yeah, and of course with a job and a baby, like I've been on daddy duty, but I make sure that in between whatever I'm doing, it's workout. If you guys follow me on Instagram, my personal page, you'll know that I'm really about that life. So you just can't.
Capital L. He really is.
You just can't. It's just like breathing, there's certain things that you should not avoid when it comes down to, hopefully my voice is all the way in the microphone, but you can avoid it by being a part of your regimen if you want to stay grounded in your health and your mind.
How did you come about doing that? Is it something that just being on it all the time? I mean, I watch you. That's definitely, you make sure you work out sometimes twice a day. Like you said, it's like breathing.
Oh man, it's so deep rooted. Some of it came from not liking what I saw in the mirror. Some of it came from the feeling of being teased at a certain age when maybe there was baby fat and not hearing the right things and wanting to be accepted socially and not people seeing something before they see my personality. Because, whether you're on either extreme, you're really skinny or really big or in the middle, there's something that somebody can tease you about. And so instead of just the motivation being not being teased, I looked at it like, well, how can I enrich myself? How can I be okay with what I see? And I'm pleased. And therefore, if someone were to say something, I'd be like, oh, really? I mean, I like what I see.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out when and how, where this baby fat, because in high school, it doesn't seem like you had baby fat, unless you're talking about when you were a baby.
No. I think that I experienced...
Which you should. Baby fat.
Right. I experienced insecurities with weight probably at the age of, I feel like the weight started to be an insecurity when I was in 6th and 7th grade when I used to live in Oklahoma, because I think that I came from 5th and going from 5th grade to 6th and 7th, I think, what are you, 13, 14? And so a lot of people, puberty hits, and I think that that's where my metabolism started to change. And that's a longer story, but that's where I realized, like, oh, I can't just eat anything, maybe how I was before. And it started to be apparent. And even my own grandmother, one of my grandmothers who is now deceased, she was just like, you were never big, and I think my other grandmother, but it's all about how you see yourself, right? And it's not you comparing yourself, it's just like, how do you see yourself? So I find to avoid all of that, of all the things that we as humans can be insecure about, and like I said, this is not about proselytizing my workout regimen to somebody else. It's about how I feel about myself. So if I can look in the mirror and be like, yeah, that's good. That's good for you. All you got to do is just apply the principles that keep you where you need to be.
I feel you. I hear you.
Other than that,
well, that's definitely another story, another day for this topic, because we can go so deep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's so much to share, including myself.
Hey, family, if you've been enjoying this podcast today, please be sure to
subscribe and hit the notification button.
Thank you so much for your support. Now back to today's episode.
Hi.
You had topic that was on your heart that you wanted to discuss.
Yes. This earlier on when we were dating, this topic, it's something that we brought up because we were getting to know each other and we want to know who our counterfeits were. And talking about the people we've dated before.
Define counterfeit before people.
Okay. In my definition, counterfeit is something that seems to be what is true, but it's not. For
something
example,
that's not as it seems.
Yes. Usually people get counterfeits on... what is it? Make-A-Wish when they shop.
Oh,
Is it
right. Like
wish list?
wish.com.
Wish.com.
Wish.com. They're like, what does it say? What I ordered versus what I got.
What
Right.
I
Yeah.
got.
Yeah. I got you. That's funny.
And yeah, I mean, with technology right now, many counterfeits are happening with the
Yeah.
internet. But in terms of dating a counterfeit, I've definitely experienced it before meeting you.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk about that because now that we're together, I can even reflect more like, wow, I dodged a bullet,
Right.
you know?
And so why some would say, why is that topic coming up? Obviously, there's something that caused you to think about this topic.
Oh, I mean, different. It could be counterfeits in career, in job, like I said, jobs, relationships, um, any decision that you make. It might seem like it's true, but it's not.
Okay.
Till you take a step back or you start seeing red flags, and then
Yeah.
you're like,
I see. Yeah.
back away, like do a moonwalk, right? Like Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I would say I want to talk about the relationship part.
Okay.
Because I think before meeting you, I had met a guy online. And, at that time I was like, you know what, I'm ready to settle. I was living in my own bubble, comfortable, loved my life.
Yeah.
But it was just like my spirit was saying, it's time to it's time
to be a wife.
To be a wife, Yeah. And I met someone online, which was very weird, new for me, especially on Facebook. He hit me up, we connected, and I was looking at his portfolio. It was connecting to maybe how my dad's like, politician, African. So I was basically trying to date my father or my brothers because they're politicians as well, I mean, working for the government.
Right.
And I missed what I really valued or what I really wanted in a husband. And that relationship lasted 2 months. And the reason it went quick, the day I found out this person is a capital C counterfeit, I ran. You know that joke, run? That's what happened.
Run.
Run.
Or why are you running?
Why are you running? Literally, why are you running?
Yeah.
And that's what happened, and I never looked back.
Wow.
As soon as the true colors were revealed to me, I was like, what was I thinking?
Sure.
And sure. It really spelled out counterfeit.
What are some of the things, I mean, you can discuss with whatever details you feel comfortable with. What are some of the things that were like crazy red flags that you feel compromised what your actual integrity or your requirements for a husband would be?
Okay. This is one of them. I wouldn't desire to marry a divorcee. Okay. Someone who's been divorced before. Not against the people who have, but it was just a desire of mine. And then someone who's had kids before.
That just wasn't your thing.
That wasn't my thing. I had personally waited for a long time to marry someone else who didn't have kids and possibly a virgin. I'm laughing because, but it's important to me, and God hears our prayers. And the fact that I went 180 to ignore all of that, that was already, Tivamila, what are you doing? Are you really listening, or you're just desperate for this love, this relationship? Yeah. And that was one of them. And then 2, I don't want to offend people, so I won't say this, but this man was from a particular country that I specifically said, I don't see myself ever dating people from that country. Yeah,
definitely scratch that from the... I'm not going to scratch what you're saying from it, but I think it's good as an example because, listen, you're human, right? We all have our own... It's going to be a strong word I'm using. We all have our own internal prejudices that we have to deal with. I know some that I'm not going to say I had, but I was hearing because of certain behaviors that I should look out for. And beyond that, because I could have been from that same very country, just a different personality. I think it's the person. I think that there is sometimes, I think what you, and correct me if I'm wrong, what you're speaking to is a behavior that is known to be common with that type of man from that
Thank
type
you
of
for
country.
wording it out. Yes, exactly. And I've witnessed it multiple times.
Right.
So I understood that maybe my personality wouldn't really work out.
And there's also
Yeah.
truth to some stereotypes. Most stereotypes come out of truth. It's just what we do with it is what creates the prejudice, because then we paint everybody with a broad brush, just like we talked in our Being Black in Asia episode. Like, you can't paint everybody with this monolithic brush.
Absolutely.
But there are certain things that become red flags because they're true to the stereotype or true to the thing that you heard, that you shouldn't deny yourself.
Well, that's good. That's why I was giving myself that grace when I actually went for the relationship. It was like, Diva, I'm like, don't think like that. What's wrong with you? And so that went away. And we dated, and it was online, so it was mostly on the phone. And once upon a time, I questioned this person, just one question, and it turned out to another person.
Do you want to share the question, or is it
no? Because I it's important to protect some people, not him, but
it was about somebody else. Got it.
Yeah, and it just turned, and I was like, "Wow, am I being pranked here? Is this a catfish?"
Give us an example of his behavior after the question.
It was from sweetie to
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you feel like the aggressive response could elicit the thought that he could be also physically abusive?
I don't know. All I know is I'm a communicator, and if your communication suddenly just turns 100 to me, that means you were probably acting, or maybe you're
putting
going
on a
through
facade
stuff
in the honeymoon phase to lure you in.
But I mean, there were other things in the beginning where when I meet you, the first thing you do is tell me you have a book. Those things don't impress me. Like Shania says, that don't impress me.
That don't impress me.
Honestly, you know me by now. Like, if you're going to say, I have books, I have a PhD, like, those things are great, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking about your character. I'm looking about your heart. And yes, those things can make people and us, the world, really feel like, I'm impressed.
Right.
But if I still can't connect to your true character and values, that's not important. So I think initially that was another red flag, but I ignored it. And then how you talk about your past relationships, I'm like,
but what initially got you to be like, because I'm guessing before him, it wasn't like you had this huge abundant dating life, but with him, you mentioned that there were qualities that you saw in your brothers and your father that lured you in. Was that it? Or did he say some specific line or something to you that said,
like I said, my heart was open to now date for marriage. So that was one reason.
So there was a level of, I'm not going to say desperation, but you were intentional about moving into that next phase.
It was intentional, not desperate, but I knew it was an intentional time to rock the boat, and I'm glad.
That might mean a few different things to different people.
Oh, okay, no.
I don't
Scratch that, please. Let's, I mean, in a holy
she don't
way.
Mean rock the boat.
to open that door. To open that door.
Gotcha.
And I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
But why do I call it a counterfeit? Because right after when that happened, 2 months in, 3 months later, I met you. And honestly, when
you re-met me.
I re-met you. Yeah. I reconnected with you. And if, honestly, the way we met with what had happened previously, I would have refused to connect with you that way because I'm just coming out of a situation where I probably would tell myself I never want to go through again.
Sure.
So also I felt it was a strategy of the enemy, the enemy to block, or delay what was a desire for me.
I get it.
So with that said, I could say it was a counterfeit because now having to have met you, I can recognize what I really needed and what I thought I needed.
So,
and I think one more thing, I remember telling my dad, I was like, Dad, I'm talking about the previous man.
Yeah.
I was like, Dad, I think I met someone. And I know my dad, he's so good at discerning. He said something that just woke me up. He was like, Sissy, let me tell you a story. there's a lady, a family member that we know who got married in that place, in that country. And he said we never saw her.
Oh, man.
And she didn't laugh, but the way he said it was like, we never saw that person again.
Wow.
You know, he didn't have to say much, but he was basically saying you're getting into something and you don't know how the outcome is going to look like. And why do I say that part? Because when they met you, there was so much peace. There was like encouraging us to be together. So it's good to listen to the wisdom of a parent.
Yeah, a parent who was wise, because everybody isn't so fortunate to have wise counsel, and so that is a blessing.
Yeah.
So what can a young woman or a woman who is in your age group or approaching it or just aspiring to do family life like you are right now, what do you say to her in terms of warning signs? If she was sitting in front of you and you're the big sister, how could you help her not have those wide rose-colored glasses on like you had?
Yeah, I would say even if when things appear to happen fast, take your time in the process.
Oh, so when you say when things appear to happen fast, like they seem too good to be true, or they seem to be, wow, everything's so smooth, everything's so great.
I think good to be true, and also the process. I mean, the person was starting to call my own family mom, dad. I'm like,
I see.
You know, you barely know my middle name, you know?
Yeah.
So when things are starting to happen fast, and whether it's a job seeking or relationship, take time to listen to the Holy Spirit. For me, the Holy Spirit, their inner voice, your intuition that guided you in so many situations to reflect, is this the way? You know, I mean, I thank God that he still protected me in the situation. And I went through it to really wake up and realize and learn that this is it. Actually, I was entrusted, because if I stayed and I was like, please, let's, you know, we figure it out, and then, you know, who would have won? The enemy. But God it really was with me in the process. And as soon as it was revealed that no, I never looked back.
Yeah,
right?
That's good.
And so with someone who is in a situation where you have to make a decision and it might be a counterfeit, take your time. Also, really go analyze the red flags. And if you have to write them down, write them down.
Yeah.
And compare it to, is this you?
Yeah, I would always say weighing the pros and cons.
Yeah.
It's if the cons are outweighing the pros, you have your answer. It's just hard for, I think, all of us to come to the realization, like, this is not working. I want love. I want companionship. I want to be with somebody so badly, but this is just not for me. And letting go of that means that you no longer can associate yourself with that thing that says, I'm in a relationship.
Absolutely.
And that's hard. That's hard for people. The further you get into life, the further you see yourself turning into this person maybe you don't want to be alone. And then you're like, but if I give this up, then I'm back to square one. But also talk to people that you trust, like your mentors, your parents, your values. They'll tell you the truth. You know, you got some family members sometimes that are crazy. I don't know if you would tell them. I'm just saying, all friends that wouldn't support you. But if you have that family member who's been there and really looks out for you, see how they respond, you know, to the situation as well. I think it's, like you said, I think it's good to be around people who have a similar worldview, but also have experience in that worldview, so that they can say, okay, I know you see the world like I do, but you've been through a few different things, and I need you to give me an understanding of how to deal with this situation. You know?
And if you have a friend or a family member who knows the situation of someone going through it, don't hold back. Don't wait until the end to express of how you really feel.
Now, when you say the end, you're probably speaking of like when you're too far in.
When you're too far in, you know, if your instincts are telling you, talk to them.
Don't wait till you're about to be proposed to, or you will propose to, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm having doubts. I mean, that's not really fair to anybody, because you already know that this is still not the ideal situation.
It's okay to be honest and really talk about it and tell them. So what about you?
Well, I mean, I feel like you've shared a good amount to impart with people today, and I can have a whole nother saga about what I'm doing, and I think it's good. We can leave it there.
Yeah.
And I also want to kind of say this, like, people say miracle baby, but I think marriage is also a miracle relationship. Having that intimacy with someone in the mind and staying committed to that that process is something that society kind of frowns upon a little bit today. People desire it, but it's almost like you're being corny, you're being this, you're being that, because people don't see that in other people. They can't see themselves really, I guess, in their minds bound, but as opposed to us, how we look at it as an attachment that is supernatural. And so it's important to choose wisely.
Yeah.
It's important to choose wisely, and
wisdom is supreme.
And it's important to really see yourself in that other person and not be afraid to have your requirements within reason. Nobody's going to be this cardboard cutout of what you envision them to be, but at least they can fit some of the requirements that don't make you compromise who you are. And definitely don't compromise your dignity, your integrity, and I know your integrity and just the very core of your being. And so
good ending, nicely closed.
Okay,
so we will see you guys next time on One More Day.
Yes, guys.
Okay.